Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Wholesome Wednesday. I pray I find you well. Thank you so much for your feedback. Thank you so much for liking. Thank you so much for sharing. Let's continue to subscribe. Let's continue to share. Today, for our Wholesome Wednesday, we are going to look at one of the questions that I received, the feedback that I got from you. One of you asked, I hope they're going to be able to see this video. You asked, what does the Bible mean when it says, then there was a Pharaoh that did not know Joseph? How could this Pharaoh not know anything to do with Joseph? Because Joseph had made so much impact, so most probably you would have heard by word of mouth what Joseph had done for Egypt. So what does the Bible mean when it says, and then rose a Pharaoh that did not know Joseph? Right, what I'm going to share with you is through my research. You can share what you can also research and share. Give me more feedback on what you find out. I'd really love to hear from you. This is what I found out. So the children of Israel, by the time Joseph is taken into Egypt, in the time when Jacob is coming in now with the rest of the family, this is the time where they were in power. There was a group of people called the Hyksos. Now, the Hyksos were not necessarily the Egyptians. These, you would remember that back then, if a nation were to conquer, right, they would take over and rule even in that land where they've conquered, and they would take everyone else who was of that land as slaves. So what had happened was the Hyksos had come into Egypt, fought the Egyptians, and won. So now, as they are in power, the Hyksos, not the Egyptians, these foreigners are now in power in Egypt, right? This is not, but the natives are working for them. The Egyptians are working for the Hyksos. Now, this is the time when Joseph, right, the brothers sell him. And this is the time when Joseph gets to Egypt. And this is still the time when Jacob gets to Egypt, right? So now the Hyksos and the Israelites, sorry, were of the same race. Because they were of the same race, they were a bit lenient with the Hebrews. So the Hebrews and the Hyksos were of the same race. Now the Egyptians were watching whilst all this was happening, that the Hyksos are treating the Hebrews on a, it's like they are doing them favors, they're giving them favors. They're not necessarily treated as slaves as the Egyptians were. Now, what then happened was the Hyksos are in power, and then the Egyptian prince just decided to revolt, and this prince was called Secondary. Right, Secondary decides to start a revolt and fight fight the Hyksos so that he could win the independence of the Egyptian. But uh, um, he does not win. He does not get to be in power. He loses the battle, and his mommy shows that he was badly hurt. He had scars on his head, and it's assumed that these scars were he got them when he was fighting the Hyksos. So he, but then the Egyptians would not keep the record of the wars that they did not win. If they lost in a war, they would not write it down. They would not record it. So there is no record of what happened to Secondary. We hear of the revolt, but there is no record of what happened. But the mummy shows that he had so many wounds on his head, testifying of a certain defeat. And it's believed that this is the defeat when he was trying to fight the Hyksos. Now the son of Secondary, Kamosi, decides to take over the fight, and he manages to win, and he drives the Hyksos out of Egypt. He takes the middle and the upper part of Egypt, and and the Hyksos are left in Avaris, which was their capital city, right? He fights them, and they are all now pushed, right, to Avaris. They only have control of their capital city. The rest of the Egypt, they no longer have control. Now, Camus has done a good thing. Slowly, the Egyptians are gaining power. Now, he does not see the full independence of the Egyptians until the brother Amos takes over. The brother takes over because Camus has died, and the brother takes over. Brother who is Amos takes over, and he drives the Hyksos actually out of Egypt, right? And he pushes them further south of the Palestine. When they are there, Amos starts a campaign where he is fighting the Palestinians, including the Hyksos that were there. That is when they are actually driven off away out of the Palestine, because Amos now wins and gains independence for Egypt. And now this is where we last hear, they are out of the record books from here. We last hear about the Hyksos from this narrative. Now, years go by until this Pharaoh that Moses is now coming to talk to, right? It is now it makes sense. Let me say that it makes sense that the Egyptians will look at the Hebrews with suspicion, because remember, these people were friends to the Hyksos. That gave them a tough time. That took over Egypt at some point. Now they are seeing these people that were close to the Hyksos, that they drove off at some point, that they are now multiplying in number. Their default settings obviously was to say, let's make sure we contain these people, because they might revolt and actually look for those Hyksos and fight us, and we end up losing our land back to the Hyksos or to the Hebrews again. So when the Bible says um, the Pharaoh who did not know Joseph, it wasn't that he doesn't know, it, it was ignorance. He was just not wanting to acknowledge, right, that Joseph was there and did something for the Egyptians, and there was a time where they were conquered by another nation that had to rule them. So this is what I got from the research, that these people had a problem with Hebrews because of how their land was once taken by the Hyksos, who were of the same race with the Hebrews. So they always looked at the Hebrews with the eye of suspicion, thinking that they are going to do that which the Hyksos did, and take over, and they will lose their independence all over again. So that's why they are paranoid. They're in paranoid. Even Pharaoh is paranoid, right? When he's seeing this group of people, when they are going, he's not sure. Are they going to go and blind to plan a revolt and come back? He has got so many thoughts in his mind. So the reason why the Egyptians are looking at the Hebrews with suspicion, it is because of this history. This is what I found out. Kindly share your thoughts, and let's learn the Bible together. Let's study the Bible together, and let's study the history books to actually find the context of how these texts were brought about and what these people were experiencing and what they were going through at the time when these scriptures were written, or when these authors were penning down these experiences. I would really love to hear from you. Thank you.